This week on The Aviators, we head to the West Coast for the Aviation Summit in Long Beach, California. While we're there, Curtis visits with the men and women of the LAPD's Aerial Support Unit. And Jeff talks to Pete Mcleod, a pilot in one of the fastest sports on Earth, Red Bull Air Racing.
You come out of the track and you run for 90 seconds and you feel like you just did a 2-hour cross country.
California. Home to palm tree-lined streets, cities named after beaches, and the 2010 AOPA Aviation Summit. Held at the end of the flying season, Summit is the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association's yearly convention and party. Unlike other big events like AirVenture and Sun and Fun, Summit's main venue is not at an airport. Instead, the folks at AOPA take over a convention center and turn it into an aviation wonderland.
Yeah, the concept of the Summit is a place where many groups, many organizations come to one place to talk about the future. And of course, this is a gathering of pilots, people passionate about flying. Frankly, it's rejuvenating.
Rejuvenating indeed. Close to 10,000 pilots gather at Summit each year to swap stories about their airplanes, buy things for their airplanes, and listen to speakers talk about airplanes.
We have lots to look at our exhibit floor. We have aircraft to look at Airport Fest out at the local airport that's involved with us. But we also talk substance. We have officials from the government, we have elected officials from Congress, and we talk about policy as well as flying.
But what if you're not a pilot? Well, if you're an aviation enthusiast or if you simply enjoy watching this program, there's probably something at Summit for you.
Well, I kind of like the idea that there's something here for everybody who cares or has a passion for flying. There's the activities at the airport, which are a lot of fun. We have actually families attend. It's open to the public, so you don't have to be a member of AOPA to be here. In fact, you don't have to be a member of AOPA to come to the exhibition hall. We do have a 3-day exhibit with nearly 500 exhibitors, all kinds of products, airplanes on the floor, just a whole host of things all about aviation. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about flying or learning a little bit more about the latest products, they're all going to be found on that exhibit floor. If you want to get out and kick some tires and look at everything from the Husky to the Citations, they're out on the ramp. In fact, Fifi is even flying at our show here in Long Beach, and a lot of people got a chance to look at some wonderful warbirds along the way too.
The 2010 Summit was held at the Long Beach Convention Center, with Airport Fest, Summit's co-venue, held at the Long Beach Airport. The event moves all around the United States year to year, allowing a wider number of people from across the country to take part.
We do move it around, and it's by design so that we can reach our members, 400,000 plus, in the West with a West Coast show, then an East Coast show, and then back to the West. I'm getting, I must say, lobbied heavily to appear in the middle of the country, and I kind of like that idea. And so I'm hopeful one of these years, the not too distant future, will bring the Aviation Summit somewhere to the center of the country as well.
Summit, of course, is hosted by the AOPA and is just one part of their year-round efforts advocating on behalf of the aviation community.
Well, the Aviation Summit's really a place to come and kind of check in with us, to see what we're doing. In fact, we modestly take a big section of the center of the exhibit hall and line up the various offices and groups and units of AOPA so that you can talk to people about insurance or the credit card or our AOPA lifestyle collection offerings. You can renew your membership, of course. You can do lots of things that are part of sort of the business side. The Summit's a place that people can come and they can have first-hand contact with the editor of Pilot Magazine, Tom Haynes, and some of the others who are working in that area. They can talk to our government affairs officials. So this is a place that I actually encourage many of our staff to come here, to be here all 3 days, and let our members interact with a lot of people.
A huge part of Summit in 2010 were the daily interviews and speakers that appeared on the event's main stage. And with the AOPA's AV team hard at work, these were all simulcast on the AOPA Live website and are still available to view. Among the over 400 exhibitors at Summit was the LAPD's Air Support Division and one of their 14 Eurocopter A-Star helicopters. The LAPD's Air Support Division, or ASD, is the largest municipally run division of its kind anywhere in the world. In addition to their 14 Eurocopter A-Stars, the ASD also operates 5 Bell Jet Rangers and a fixed-wing King Air twin turboprop. This allows the unit to provide support to an area covering over 400 square miles.
We have at least 2 helicopters in the air 20 hours a day, every day of the year that the weather allows us to fly.
Captain James Miller is the commanding officer of the ASD. He oversees 77 officers, including 50 pilots.
And they respond just like a patrol car to calls for service. If there's a robbery, they'll respond to that robbery and get overhead. Last year, they responded over 45,000 calls, and they were first on scene at 15,000 of those calls. They were the first police resources to arrive.
The standard crew for the ASD's aerial squad cars is 1 pilot and 1 tactical flight officer. The pilot has to fly the helicopter over the busy streets of LA, while the tactical flight officer operates the helicopter's precision cameras and sensors and directs police elements on the ground. Officer Angela Krieg has been a pilot with the Air Support Division for more than 20 years. With that experience, Angela is intimately familiar with the unique challenges of flying police helicopters.
It's just a different kind of flying because you have to set it up in an orbit, and if the suspect's running or something's happening, it's really got to be set up so that your partner can see that.
So your job as a pilot is to maneuver the helicopter, even if you're flying crooked, to make sure they have a good picture of what's going on the ground.
And that's where we do feel it, you know, in your neck and your back, because you are crooked a lot.
Both the pilots and the tactical flight officers are pulled out of the LAPD's regular police force. They have to have 5 years' experience as a police officer, with at least 3 years of those working on patrol.
And then it's a competitive process. They'll oral for the position. The tactical flight officers come up and do a 1-month loan. At the end of that month, we evaluate as to whether or not they're qualified to do the job, to continue in the training. It's a 6-month training program for the tactical flight officers. Pilots are 5 years as a police officer, 3 years of patrol experience. They have to have a private pilot license when they come up to oral, but it can be in fixed wing. It doesn't have to be in helicopters. And they go through a similar selection process. We then bring them here for a 1-month ground school where they get a little bit of time in the helicopter, and based on their performance there, we determine who looks like they have the best aptitude to fly. Then when we have openings, they'll be selected to fill those positions. It's then a 6-month training program to learn to fly the helicopters. About 150 hours of flying time, well over 600 hours of ground time studying the books. They start out basically with nothing and end up with a commercial turbine helicopter license.
Officer James Swirler has been a tactical flight officer, or TFO, for 4.5 years. The TFO is responsible for operating the helicopter's surveillance systems, helping navigate around the city, and communicating with the officers on the ground.
So now the officers on the ground have asked for help, you've made the decision to go, you're over top of them, now there's some special tools that they obviously are looking for you to employ to assist them on the ground.
Yeah, our main job is to provide an airborne assessment to the officers and give them a tactical insight from our position of advantage. We can see the whole thing like a chessboard or something like, or a game. And that way we can see everything they can't, we can see a lot more than they can see anyway. And what we do is, for instance, if it's a foot pursuit, we can keep an eye on the suspect as he's jumping walls when the officers wouldn't be able to see that. They could see him jump the first wall and then he's gone. And our job is to make sure, first of all, our main job is officer safety. You know, if the suspect gets away, that's one thing, but the most important thing is the officers are safe. that nobody gets hurt. So when we get overhead, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to prevent crossfires, officers getting in certain places. So what we do is we get overhead. If it's daytime, we're obviously not using the night sun, but we'll get on the binoculars. We have gyro-stabilized binoculars here that take out the vibration of what we're looking at. We can use that if we need to spot an address or a license plate or something.
So you can actually, from 500 feet, read a license plate with one of those?
Yes, we can do that. Sometimes it's not easy, and we rely a lot on our pilots to put us in at the right position to read those plates, because it's not easy, but you can definitely do it. It's doable.
To further complicate the job of the ASD, the division is also operating in one of the most complex air traffic control spaces in the world. In addition to traffic from the fifth busiest commercial airport in the world, LAX, the ASD pilots also have to contend with traffic from Santa Monica, Whiteman, Bob Hope, and the busiest general aviation airport in the world, Van Nuys.
It's a unique type of flying. It's not the same where you're navigating and plotting and going from point A to point B, and it's very consistent. We're up, we fly maybe 2.7, 2.8 hours, and then we switch crews. We switch on station in the air because we may be on a perimeter or in the middle of a car chase. We'll switch. One airship will come over, the lower one will be handling it, and then the upper one will come over, and then the relief is done. So it's a different type of flying. It's not that navigational technical. It's just, I follow roads.
It's only fitting that since the LAPD Air Support Division is the largest of its kind, that they also operate on the largest rooftop heliport in the world, which according to Captain Miller has had 30 helicopters on it at once. This central location allows the Air Support Division to respond to over 45,000 calls a year while accumulating 17,000 combined flight hours.
Many bad guys would get away if we weren't there. Once we're overhead, it's very rare a suspect ever gets away. I haven't heard of one. So I think our biggest thing is helping the community by catching the bad guys. That's why we all came up here.
As monumental as man finally thrusting himself into the air at the turn of the 20th century was, it didn't take long before simply flying wasn't good enough. Sometime within the first decade of powered flight, one pilot turned to another pilot and said, "I bet my plane can fly faster than yours." And with that, air racing was born.
Speed fans, 100,000 of them see the start of the Thompson Trophy race. Climax of speed at the National Air Races, Cleveland. 8 of the swiftest flyers roar through the air.
Since that time, organized air races have been part of aviation. Held annually, everything from purpose-built racers to warbirds like the P-51 have taken part. But in 2003, Red Bull introduced the world to a whole new form of air racing. Red Bull Air Racing pits pilots against the clock as they attempt to fly a low-level obstacle course in the fastest time. The course is marked by a series of inflatable pylons only 65 feet in height, and the pilots traverse this course at speeds of up to 230 miles per hour. 27-year-old Pete Mcleod is the youngest of the 15 pilots who fly in the Red Bull Air Races. A third-generation pilot, Pete has been around aircraft all his life and progressed from aerobatic flying to the Red Bull Air Races in 2009.
Like a lot of people don't remember learning to walk or read. I don't remember learning to fly. I don't, remember that first day where I went to my license, had my first time lifting off the ground in a small plane. It was just normal. It wasn't until I was older that I realized that not every young kid goes flying, a few times a week. So I'm doing my license normally, at 16 and onto my commercial, and that's kind of the progress from there, and then onto the aerobatics.
Pete's aerobatic background was an important stepping stone for the Red Bull Air Racing experience. The Red Bull Air Races aren't just simply about flying fast in a straight line, then turning left. Each 3 to 4 mile race course is made up of a series of air gates and pylons which pilots fly in a predetermined order. Some of the air gates, the pilots must fly through wings level, while others must be flown through knife edge, meaning the wings are 90 degrees to the horizon. The tracks also have a chicane where the pilots must slalom through individual pylons. If a pilot flies through a level gate without their wings level, or flies through a knife edge gate level or banked the wrong way, they'll receive a 2-second penalty. If they hit a gate or pylon, it's a 6-second penalty. This may not sound like much, but a few seconds is huge when most races are decided by 1/100th of a second, and flying the course only takes 60 to 90 seconds.
You come out of the track and you've run for 90 seconds and you feel like you just did a 2-hour cross country. There's a lot going on in your mind, on your body, but ultimately you've got to pass a series of gates as quickly as possible in the correct attitude. So the airplane rolls very quickly, so this all happens in milliseconds, and you've got to be very precise with it. So you get plus or minus 10 degrees of a bank difference, and then you get a penalty outside of that. So if you're going through like 30 degrees, 350 kilometers an hour, and 400 degrees a second, of roll rate, that may seem like you're level, and you're not. And they pull on the ultra slow motion video replay and ding you with a penalty. So that kind of focus is very important. As you pass through each gate, really, you're already thinking ahead of where not just the one next gate is, but 2 and 3, because if you think car racing, and this is a great reference to people, you've got a track. You're stuck on that 20-foot wide piece of asphalt as you go around the corner. You can only take that. You can take it on the inside or outside, but that's the track that takes you around. We don't have that. We have a gate and a gate, and it's up to you to make that track in between. So you've got to find that fastest line. If you're off of the fastest line, it's costing you time. And it's not only the direct line between point A to point B, because what's after, say, the second gate that you're thinking of may be something that changes your line coming into the first gate, for example. So it's that big game, and it's about having those lines envisioned. There's a lot of details going on. They're coming at you, just boom, 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 boom.
To fly a course like this, the pilots need extremely lightweight and powerful aircraft. Some pilots go with the MXS-R, while Pete flies an Edge 540.
So Pete, the Edge 540, your airplane we're standing in front of, tell us about the airplane and what makes it special for air racing.
Yeah, this is actually the V3 model of the Edge 540. So this is the latest generation race plane. 20 hours on it right now. It hasn't seen a racetrack yet, and it's itching to get in. The Edge itself is a fairly small airplane, but very strong, very lightweight. So some of the things that help it in the racetrack are not only its top speed, of course, but that's very maneuverable, because the racetracks are very tight. You're pulling a lot of G's in the corners. You have to maneuver the plane back and forth, change direction, knife edge, different things like that. So you need a high roll rates. And lightweight, about 1,140 pounds and about 375 horsepower. And strength, you know, it's plus minus 20 G's is the wing. So we're limited to 12 in the racetrack, and people think, 12, you know, you're going to pass out with that. Of course, you know, we train for this, and you're not under 12 G's for 5 minutes. It's coming on and off. But the plane is exceptionally strong, so my body's going to break before anything on the plane is going to break, which is, you know, good peace of mind when you're out there just yanking as hard as you can on it to make it around a corner.
To put this in perspective, during launch and re-entry, space shuttle pilots experience about 3 Gs max. F1 drivers can experience 5 to 6 Gs in a lateral turn. If a Red Bull pilot actually exceeds 12 Gs, they're disqualified. To be able to handle this sort of force, the aircraft are constructed using steel tubes and carbon fiber.
The fuselage is actually, the structure is steel tube, and all the what you see here is actually fairings. It's essentially a carbon fiber shell. What's nice about that for the race is that it's very easy to modify.
While the pilots all fly very similar factory aircraft, each team modifies their aircraft to get that competitive edge.
Now, you mentioned that you do mods to the aircraft in order to increase your performance in your races. Tell us about the mods you make, particularly to the cowlings and to the wingtips.
Yeah, you know, I mean, to win in the race and be competitive, you have to pay attention to every last detail, but, you know, we could be here all day talking about everything, but, you know, the cowling, a lot of people overlook a cowling of an aircraft and how that relates to speed, and automatically, of course, they think shape, and that's where it's us, but cooling drag is such a big thing, and in the race, you know, we build everything specific to what we're doing, so if we're 60 to 90 seconds in the track, I know that all I need is 2 minutes of my engine going max power and not melting. So if I can go any more than that, I'm wasting. I've got too much cooling going on, which is too much drag. So we do a lot with the intakes here, shutting them down or opening them up, as well as the exit of it, and how we treat the air inside. There's actually, you know, we do a few things that we won't open up and show you because I don't want the other guys finding out. But some very basic principles with that. Coming out to the wing here, this is another thing where, you know, people looking at the race, they've probably noticed you have some guys with the big winglets coming up, different shapes, all different kinds of design. You'll see that this is very visible that this is interchangeable. So we've notched the wing to be able to have more of a leeway of the shape we can build in. And you can see I've got these very sharp tips, and lots going on here, as well as different types of tips for different types of tracks and what works best in different scenarios.
So I think everyone would wonder, how many different sets of tips do you have for the aircraft?
Another secret.
All of the pilots flying in the Red Bull Air Races are very experienced aerobatic pilots. The combination of low altitude and high speed does make this a very dangerous sport. Most of the courses are on water. However, in Germany, they do fly over a land course. Safety for the spectators is also crucial, and like an air show, the races have a set race box as well as a buffer zone for crowd safety. But in 2010, the danger of the sport was emphasized when Australian pilot Matt Hall had a close call after his aircraft struck the water in Windsor. Matt made a miraculous recovery and was able to pull up. However, his wingtip and wheel fairing were damaged.
I've G-stalled the aircraft, which has rolled me slightly past the knife edge. I've managed to get it back to wings level and recover. I believe I might have skipped twice on the water because I felt 2 impacts, flew it away, and then obviously it was all just trying just to get it back on the ground safely. Everyone was okay.
What may look like a dangerous part of the race, striking a pylon, is actually not. The balloon-like pylons are actually designed to tear away easily when they're hit, but the time penalty hits a little harder.
As a pilot, I've always wondered myself, what's it like to hit a pylon?
It's frustrating, is what it is. If you really hit it, you feel it. I've been lucky. I haven't had any real bad hits. I've got some of my buddies have really, really creamed them, and it's a pretty big wake-up call. But I've hit them inboard on the wing, some, more than others, and you'll feel it. It's kind of like a big pop. The worst ones are the ones that just go by, and that razor-sharp tip there slices them. You don't even feel it. And it's not until your second lap that you come around and you see like one gate up and one down, and then the colorful language in your head starts and all that. So it's just you took a 6-second penalty and you're probably done for the day. So those are the worst ones, and you don't even know you did them.
Now, finally, there's a lot of kids watching the show who want to get into aviation, become pilots, and many of which want to become aerobatic pilots.
Yeah, I really believe young people can achieve at a high level while they're still young, and aviation is such a great thing. And for me, as a Canadian being young, I get a lot of young people contact me. How do we get into this? How do you do this? How do you get a start? And aviation, of course, is difficult because you have to have a license. You have to be 16 to start. You can't necessarily go out when you're 6 years old, go to like a go-kart track or something. But I guess the big message is that I'm just a normal guy. I came from a really small town where you'd never pick Red Lake, Ontario as the place spawn a international race pilot from. But if it's something you love to do, and no matter what that is, but if you love it and you're passionate about it, then you can achieve that, and that's what the young people need to do. And with aviation, they just need to get involved and be around it, and I fully support people to go that route, and hopefully they get even a taste of what I've had. Is very rewarding.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv. From our official home at the Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, we'll see you next time on The Aviators.